Welcome to another presentation from the CV Academics Foundation, home of the AMP Honors Program.
Welcome, AMP community. Today we are here with a very special guest. It is my pleasure to introduce Pepper Burruss. We're going to talk a little bit more about who he is, but he has had an extensive tenure as an athletic trainer in the NFL, and we are lucky enough to have him here today to get a little bit of knowledge and experience from him. So, Pepper, thank you very much for joining us today.
I can talk about experience, not sure about knowledge.
Awesome. You have had a lot of inclusion and a lot of your career. You were helping kind of lead the way on head injuries. And I think you were also training in a time where we started to realize how much these have an impact on players and start to take some precautions in what this can do to people. Can you just talk to me a little bit about kind of your experience with that and what that means as an athletic trainer to try and take care of somebody or try to prevent head injuries to the best of your ability?
Yeah, well, athletic trainers don't like to say, we used to like to say we deal with the care and prevention of injuries. Well, you can't prevent injuries. You might be able to lessen the impact. But one of the things that I like to say when regarding head injuries, concussions, whatever have you, is that God did not design our bodies to play football. You've got a 20-pound bowling ball sitting on top of a slinky. You're not supposed to, a lot of people don't know what a slinky is, but you are not supposed to be hitting somebody with that bowling ball on top of a slinky. So therein lies problems. Secondly, with head injuries, that we have a little bit of revisionist history, is that we, sports caregivers, are being held accountable for things we didn't know. That's like holding Chevrolet and Ford accountable for the fact that they didn't know they should put seatbelts in cars. And of course, there's an age-old argument about cigarettes and on and on. So we didn't know, and there was some few dark years in the NFL where there was some elementary research, and whether it's conspiracy theory that, they, weren't forthright with what they were finding or whatever, it's neither here nor there. But as we learned, we quickly adapted, and certainly the road can split there because we can talk about the changes in equipment, meaning helmet transitions, or the tremendous explosion of neurophysiology. The fact that there's worldwide conferences. The leading conference is in Zurich, Switzerland, for concussions, and summits they have. And you say, I was involved with the early part of it. Well, if you're old and got some gray hair or whatever, they select you to be on a committee because they think maybe you're involved with stuff. But I was proud to be involved in that. In fact, I had been selected to be on the cardiovascular committee, and when this committee was morphed, the concussion, head, neck, and spine committee, I guess I can regress and say I got a pass onto that committee because I had been involved in a reasonably famous neck injury with the New York Jets. Tremendously good outcome, nothing to do with me. Blessings to the young man, Dennis Bird. And so why not put Pepper on the head, neck, and spine committee? And so I was on it, and all of a sudden I realized I'm around some really, really, really smart people. Because also the NFL used to keep NFL people on committees. Mm-hmm. Well, this was the time to involve people from all walks of life. Doctors from children's hospitals, and somebody takes care of race car drivers, and on and on and on. So there's not enough time in a day to discuss and with preparation of how that all came about, but very proud that there was a need, it was met, and the amount of data that's been generated is voluminous.
So kind of going on that point, the NFL took a lot of precautions, and they started to create rules to try and make the game safer, things like having the blue hat on the sideline that is a neutral party that can go in and check for head injuries, whether it's people calling up from in the box or whatever. You guys have your own team of neutral trainers in the box as well, looking at that stuff, or shortening kickoffs, because that was a very injury-prone play, I guess, if you want to call it. How have you seen that affect the game from an athletic training standpoint?
Well, to say that the game is safer, I think that's a generality. It is safer because we can talk about, our cars safer now. I'm old enough to remember when they first started padding dashboards, way before airbags, and cars didn't have seatbelts. So as you make changes, it becomes safer. Now, if you talk to old school football players, they say, oh, the quarterback should be out there in a little pink tutu, and you're not allowed to touch him anymore. Well, he's pretty defenseless there. He's concentrating on looking at somebody, and he gets smacked by two guys that are 300 pounds plus, et cetera, et cetera. The defenseless receiver that's looking over his shoulder, and all of a sudden he turns and there's a crazy collision. All of those things have made the game safer, and I think there's a couple of different types of rules, reactive and proactive, and some can be both. We react to things, we change things, and we look at things and proactively change them. And you could argue about that with the kickoffs and on and on. But don't confuse me with anybody who knows anything about football. I like to say I don't know if the ball is puffed up or stuffed up. But when we see these changes and they impact things for the better, we're all for them. And sometimes they soften some of these rules. They try to make a rule and then they back away from it some. But you allude to the people on the sidelines, the eye in the sky. No, not an official, but certified athletic trainers that are looking down to see. We're looking at, for Packer fans, Leroy Butler and Reggie White and Leroy Butler jumping in the stands, and you don't realize that on that fumble recovery that another defensive player got, as we say, blown up downfield, and he's laying there and weren't even watching there because you were watching. And so you can go back and request that on video and say, oh, I see, he just got lambasted from the side, he landed on his back, he got the wind knocked out of him. Or he got, so to speak, clipped, and oh my goodness, look at the way his knee bent. So our ability to look at instant replay is, in my last couple of years was there, it's remarkable. The long and short of it is that technology and analytics have impacted sports medicine. And the sky's the limit.
Yeah, I completely agree. On a little bit of that same note, I know you like to say you don't have too much of an experience about the actual game itself, but I think along with the rules and the equipment evolving, the coaches are evolving, the techniques they're using are evolving. How does it feel as an athletic trainer to see, back in the day, you have guys like Barry Sanders and Bo Jackson that are putting the front of their head and their whole spine is compressing and running guys over, to players starting to be smarter with their body and realize that just because you have this bowling ball on a slinky doesn't mean that I should ram it into the first person I see every single time. Does that make you happy to see them start to be cognizant of that, and the coaches start to put more emphasis on that?
Yeah, but that's been a long road to hoe. Because think about, I don't want to go controversial, smoking. You tell people smoking's bad for you. Well, I'm still going to smoke. It doesn't matter, on and on. Or whatever subject we choose, whatever rabbit hole we want to go down. But you talk to old school football players that, Ronnie Lott famously out with the 49ers, that could knock a car over the way he tackled. If you tell him that's not safe, he's going to say, so what? This is the way I play the game. So there's, just because you say as a rule, things don't just automatically change. There's so many players that had certain ways they tackled and did things. And it's taken a while to get them to understand it. A classic example for a Packer fan would be this game just the other night where Jari Alexander, apparently, I think he was making a tackle, involved in a tackle, and he actually got up off the ground and signaled to the sideline. And if, again, I'm watching like a fan, I'm not inside or on the sideline, but apparently he had known that he had hit his head enough to be dizzy or black out or something, and he was brought in for the concussion evaluation and protocol. So that is the alpha and the omega from guys who say, I'm not going to report it, to someone saying, hey, I'm going to report it. So you would take that as that's a win-win. But you also have to try to identify with an athlete that has dreamt to play at this level, couldn't even comprehend of making the minimal salary. You could come up with 1,000 scenarios of why the salary is important to him, debt, whatever. But he also knows that the minute that I mention to you, the athletic trainer, you, the doctor, that my shoulder's killing me, hey, I'm a little fuzzy in my head, that's a crack in the door that someone else is going to come through. And the next thing you know, I'm inactive, I'm not getting my roster bonus, whatever you want to come up with. But you've got to kind of identify with someone who wants to do this for a lot of good reasons and does not want, he's willing to put his body at risk for that. So it's kind of one of those cup of coffee sitting across the table, let's fight about it and talk about it. Do we want it for safety and all of the good reasons? Yes. But you also have to identify with the fact that you've done things, whether you're driving too fast because you've got to get somewhere, somebody's in the hospital and you don't care. The backstory to so many things has something worth discussing. So sometimes a player won't tell you that. And you got to smack them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that speaks a lot to you and all the rest of the athletic trainers that have to deal with this at all levels. I think it's a trust factor that you are going to give them as much leeway as you possibly can because you understand those things. You understand why they want to play, how bad they want to play. But at the same time, you also have a very good grasp on what this is doing for their health and is this worth it.
You have to develop that trust that, look, I'm not going to be a rat, but I'm looking out for you.
Yeah, you got to come to me.
Yeah, so, yeah, another rabbit hole we can go down another time.
This has been a presentation of the CV Academics Foundation, home of the AMP Honors Program.